Well, hello everybody and welcome to this Tuesday's MBE Movie News. I nearly done it again. I nearly screwed the intro up again, but not this time. Welcome into this Tuesday's MBE Movie News. I've nearly screwed it up because I realise, just as I'm starting here guys, that I've got the wrong logo up. And the reason I have the wrong logo up is because I've just reacted to the trailer for The Mandalorian Season 2. And that is what the headline is on this show today, incidentally. It's all about The Mandalorian Season 2 trailer. It finally dropped. It took me by surprise. It was actually fellow movie burner Stephen who actually dropped it in Messenger and let me know that this trailer had arrived. And look, I've watched it, I've reacted to it, and I have to say, very, very pleased by what I've seen. It looks as though it's given us a little bit of everything that we got from that first season, but it's upping the scale. In some ways we are involving Jedi, and I'll bring up a short little article here that's sort of summarising exactly what I says. The Mandalorian Season 2 trailer dropped, and wherever I go, he goes. That is a sort of core theme which is narrating us through this actual trailer. It's all about this unlikely duo, these two strange bedfellows, Baby Yoda and Pedro Pascal's Mandalorian character. And I'm going to try and do something slightly different here when I do this little discussion on the trailer. I'm going to try and hopefully the audio's okay, incidentally, because it's saying there's drop frames. It's because I'm actually currently uploading said trailer reaction onto YouTube, and the internet's just absolute bullshit here. So if there's issues with the audio and the visuals, I do apologise. Hopefully it will be over once that uploads. But I digress. Let's go in and see if this will work. There you go. I've added a new little scene into the whole Streamlabs OBS, which is hopefully going to allow me to go through the trailer in sequential order and give my thoughts on various scenes that have popped up in said trailer. Now, it obviously opens up with this, and this is a very sort of familiar sight for Star Wars fans, let's be honest. Clearly paying homage to Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. I nearly said Episode 1 there, because technically it was the first. Where you see at the end, obviously, the attack on the Death Star, the Yavin 4 silhouette and the Death Star creeping out from the side of it. Very iconic shot. Of course, in this case, it's not actually the Death Star, it's just a neat little backdrop for the Mandalorian and his complete rust bucket of a ship. It's almost like they are trying to go toe-to-toe with the Millennium Falcon from the original trilogy in terms of how much of a rust bucket they can make this thing appear. This has been stripped back, this ship, put back together. It's been through the wars, and it shows, because as I play it here, you'll see sparks coming off the side, which perhaps says that repair job on that desert planet wasn't going quite as well as they maybe thought it was initially. But it's a cool little intro to this trailer. And then, of course, you get the infamous Lucasfilm logo flashing up. We don't really care about that. And there's lots of discourse, and we see here the amazing silhouette of the Mandalorian himself, the lone gunslinger, and his little friend, Yoda, Baby Yoda, walking around. And we see, look, this moment was very interesting. I think he asked, where do I go to find these mystical wizards, in a sense, i.e. the Jedi? And I think the narrator, perhaps, I think it's the Mandalorian chieftain who forged all of his metal and stuff like that, his armour. She says, whatever you think, or something along those lines, paraphrasing. I've watched it 25 minutes ago. My mind's still not quite settled. I've only seen it once. I've not allowed it to really envelop me yet. I will watch this trailer many more times. But just as he says that, or she says that in the narration, we see this shot, and it looks very much like Tatooine. We have a sort of, I think it's a bantha, they call these things, with the horns, and that's clearly a Tusken Raider, or the Sand People as they were called in my youth in the 1990s. I think they obtained Tusken Raider following these special editions and the prequel trilogy, where of course Anakin absolutely wrecked the living shit out of them. Nearly swore there, not good. Very cool shot. Then we see him going here to the snowy planet. Not got a clue where that could be. Surely it's not Hoth. Surely they are not returning to Hoth, man. That would make no sense whatsoever. There's got to be more snowy planets in Hoth anyway. But it was a neat little shot, and again, it just shows you the camaraderie between the Mandalorian and this young little budding Baby Yoda. There's this real connection, this sort of intrinsically linked connection where their fates are almost tied up. I says it earlier on, strange bedfellows, in a sense. They have no right being together. This guy's a cold-hearted assassin, a bounty hunter. And he's a Mandalorian, and they only deal with their own tribes. They're very tribalistic, anarchic, they're an anarchic race. And therefore, when you see him teaming up with this little guy, it's very intriguing. This is a cool shot, just purely from a visual standpoint. It's got that gritty, lived-in vibe that we love from the Star Wars movies from bygone eras. And in fairness, the sequel trilogy done a pretty good job of giving us that lived-in feeling too. It was just the actual story and character development which was absolutely naff. Again, we see this mysterious hooded figure. Is it an assassin? An agent of Giancarlo Esposito's Moff Gideon, I believe? Or is it a Jedi that he is looking to hunt down? Is he going to be bumping into little messengers who will lead him on a paper trail to the Jedi? Here we have Baby Yoda again. What a cool little guy he is. I almost feel terrible for saying that I didn't want this guy back in this season. It's almost blasphemous when you see this neat little guy and his lovely little hands and these cute little beady eyes, a little tuft of grey hair. How could you not want more of this little guy in your life? Need to get my shit together. Look at him looking up, he's so cool. He's like a little dog, isn't he really? A little force-sensitive dog. I don't know what's going on here, but it's sort of conveying that message really, that he's on a bit of an expedition, a journey to seek out the Jedi and finally settle this little guy down in a safe haven. And in order to do so, he's going via space, land, air and on sea. As you see, he's taking up numerous transportation methods. Really cool shot here, love this. We have the classic X-Wings flanking him either side. Again, this is probably alluding to the fact he's getting into a Republic area, I want to say. This is after the events of the Return of the Jedi. Should be a new Republic starting to form. Again, cool shot, almost like Bespin. Amazing shot there. We did get Gina Carano. I actually said in my reaction video, I missed Gina Carano. We see her there with Carl Weathers, as we can't say Carol, incidentally. So many cool shots. That's obviously Gideon, and that was an amazing shot too, the speeder bike. They're really just, in a sense, nitpicking little tiny details out from what we loved from the original trilogy. And I says this in my reaction, in my brief summary, I'll say. That's what made that first season so special. It was almost soap opera-ish. It was like EastEnders in some degree. It's a crap soap opera over here, incidentally, if you're not from the United Kingdom. I don't know what the US equivalent or somewhere else would be. Certainly in Australia, it's Neighbours and things like that. It felt small in scale compared to what we were used to. But what you couldn't criticise was the feel. It certainly felt like Star Wars, the original Star Wars. It had that gritty lived-in vibe. It had that magic element to it. And even though it was small little settings, not the grandiose big Jedi-laden settings, it felt right, man. It felt like we were going in the right direction under the tutelage of Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, and of course Taika Waititi, Bryce Dallas Howard, and Kathy Yen, I want to say, who's now doing the Obi-Wan TV show. And again, you see that here, man. It has that magical element. You have the sort of jetpack, Boba Fett-esque. You have not the snow speeders, the actual speed bikes. There's so much going on, man. It's visually a very alluring trailer too. There's some really cool wide shots of the Mando walking about, pondering life. We have this borderline wrestling sequence, boxing sequence. And this moment I loved in particular because we are going back to what made the original Star Wars so special. The real sort of lived-in practical alien species. We got that in The Force Awakens with Simon Pegg's UNCUT plot. Not so much in the prequel trilogy. So it's great to see they're going back and giving us these wacky-looking alien creatures. Loved that. That was just so seedy looking. It's the underbelly. He's having to go everywhere, really. And this is the standout scene in the entire trailer for me. Thoroughly enjoyed. That little knowing sort of Easter egg back to the first season when it pops up. I can't recall the guy's name even now. The older guy who played the villain in it. I think he's got a sort of Germanic name. When he goes in to hand him over, he goes back to sort the stormtroopers out later, laden with guilt, and he uses these little things in his wrist to wreck the living shit out of them. This little guy here, he recognises what's about to go down, and he bails. Loved it, man. And it's just adding more personality into little Baby Yoda, because he was a neat little guy from the start. He's eating little crickets and, I don't know, things anyway, just frogs and stuff like that. So it was very cool to see that personality ripping out of the little guy. And look, I think that's the end of the trailer. So, no, there we get that little scene too. It's sort of him wrecking the living shit out of everyone there, showing that he's a badass in a sense. And what a logo, man. I really enjoyed the first season's logo. Love the fact they've added in little baby Yoda. So all in all, guys, I really enjoyed the trailer, man. I don't know why I've went down that route of sort of watching it while speaking about it. It's enabling my propensity for prattling on a load of shit for way too long. But I really enjoyed the trailer, man. I thoroughly enjoyed seeing more of Baby Yoda, despite my early misgivings about the character and his potentially sizable role in this second season. Moving on. Before I do move on, though, literally to another topic, I'm going to quickly bring up this other little interconnected article from Collider, as you can see, and it's just to really acknowledge that amazing poster, because it's just absolutely alluring. It's stunning. What a juxtaposition of the Mando. There's a little man pouch with Baby Yoda. That's in a sense almost the Hangover's version of... That's the Mandalorian's version of the Hangover. Instead of the baby being strapped here, he's got it in a little borderline kangaroo pouch at the side. And look at that shot behind him, that sunset and the beautiful sort of mixtures of blue, dark blue, aquamarine and oranges. It's just a stunningly put together little poster. That's something I'd like to get my hands on, incidentally. I don't know if it'll ever release. But yeah, all in all, I'm really excited about Season 2. I'm excited about the direction. I'm excited to see how it's going to progress, where the evolution is going to be for Pedro Pascal, where the evolution is going to come for Baby Yoda. Gina Carano's character, Carol Weathers coming back. There's a whole lot happening in here. Moff Gideon as well. I love Giancarlo Esposito. Ever since I've seen him playing Gustavo Frings in Breaking Bad, he is a stupendously talented actor, and he's absolutely perfect as the overarching big bad in this next season. So really excited, man. That's just whetted my anticipatory juices even more. Not that I needed them wetted, because I know that Jon Favreau knows his shit when it comes to Star Wars, and he knows his shit when it comes to food too. If you've been watching that guy's TV show where he sort of makes food and stuff like that. I've just lost an article there, incidentally, so that's going to completely screw me right away. But I'm going to move on to the next topic. It just sans the actual article popping up screen. And as you can see, it's all about one Madonna. Lady Madonna herself has decided that she's getting a little bit envious of the likes of Queen and obviously Elton John and soon-to-be Baz Luhrmann's Elvis Presley biopic. She's getting a little bit envious of all of these musicians and artists having musical biopics created in their sort of honour. And she's decided she's going to take things into her own hands. She's going to write and direct her very own musical heavy biopic about her life, about her career, and she's doing it for Universal by all accounts. And just before I actually get into the actual meat and bones of this article, I just want to stress this is really strange. Now, it's one thing having an artist's life honoured on the screen. We've seen it with Johnny Cash, we've seen it with The Doors, with Val Kilmer, we've seen it with an array of different artists and bands over the years, but they have been done by people who were fans of them, who were inspired by their work, their careers. My dog's absolutely raping me behind here, incidentally. You'll hear that probably, and that's okay when you have other individuals crafting these movies in your behalf. But when it's your own movie about your own career and you're taking it into your own hands and you're creating the script, you're directing the movie, that seems strange to me. Right off the bat, I'm going to say, really strange news article that popped up when I was looking for topics to speak about on this show. Madonna, is she even a director? And is she really that big-headed that she actually wants to write her own movie about her life? It's really weird to me. But yeah, look, I digress. I think she was speaking, or someone was speaking anyway. I think it was Donna Langley of Universal Pictures. She is the entertainment group chair, and she says this: I want to convey the incredible journey that life has taken me on as an artist. No, that's Madonna that says that. It's definitely Madonna that says that in a statement. It's taken me on as an artist and a musician and a dancer, a human being. Aren't we all? Trying to make our way in this world. The focus of this film will always be there, or will always be music, I should say. Music has kept me going, and art has kept me alive. I think breathing and eating has kept you alive, Madonna, but yeah. There are many untold and inspiring stories, and who better to tell it than me? It's essential to share the rollercoaster ride of my life with voice and vision. Big-headed, as I did say, rollercoaster journey of my life. Wow. Not much modesty in there from Madonna. But Langley has praised her, the ultimate icon, humanitarian, artist and rebel, with her singular gift of creating art that is as accessible as it is boundary pushing. She has shaped our culture in ways very few others have. This movie is an absolute labour of love. I have known Madonna since we made A League of Their Own together. Well, she has actually wrote and perhaps directed things then, I take it back. And I can't imagine anything more thrilling than collaborating with her and Diablo on bringing her true life story to the big screen with Donna and our partners at Universal. Look, joking aside about the big-headedness, about her lack of modesty, this has got potential to be very, very good, let's be honest. One of the truly iconic musicians, artists, as you said, dancer, all-round jack of all trades of the previous 40 years. She is an icon, and look, if you're making movies about Elton John and you're making movies about Queen, then why not make a movie about Madonna? And joking aside, as I did say about her writing it and directing it, no one knows her life better than her. And if she has worked as a screenwriter before or in other movies, collaborating with people, then it's got potential to be pretty good. It has. And if they can blend the musical elements, and she did suggest that the movie wouldn't really work without heavy musical inspiration from her career in there, then I don't see why it can't be a huge success. She's had so many hits spanning decades upon decades. And yeah, it really just depends on which way they go down with this movie. Will it be the sort of fantasy inspired creative direction that we've seen in Rocketman, or will it be more like the serious, stuffy telling of her deepest, darkest, intricate secrets like we've seen in Bohemian Rhapsody, which of course we didn't get in Bohemian Rhapsody, incidentally, so talking absolute shite there. It was a sort of whitewashed retelling of Freddie Mercury's personal side of things, his demons and whatnot. But look, depending on which route they go down in this movie, it could have real potential to be a success. If they go down the more musical element, we have seen a renaissance in the last 10 years or so for musicals. It sort of fell out of favour. It's coming right back into vogue in the last few years. We've seen La La Land, we've seen Rocketman, Bohemian Rhapsody, Great Showman. There's a huge hit, an array of hit musical movies in the last at least 5 years anyway, but I want to say stretching out to 10 years. And they certainly do well over here in the United Kingdom, and she is huge over here in the United Kingdom, so I see no reason why it can't be a success, joking aside about her lack of modesty and her sort of big-headedness. But look guys, it's that time in the show again where I'm going to go into the blog rundown, and I'm going to break down some of the reviews which have been popping up on the blog rundown. We have got a real backlog of reviews, and hence why I'm going to be trying to tackle a lot of these on a daily basis, and it just allows me to sort of sit back and not get too frenetic in the actual topics, moving on. I can sort of envelop myself in these reviews. And as I did say, if you want, yesterday if you were here incidentally, if you weren't then, if you want to read any of these reviews, and there is some truly brilliant reviews on there, including from myself, speaking about no modesty, then you can go over to our website at movieburnerentertainment.org/blog, and you will get access to an array of very cool movies, blockbusters, little B-movies, independent movies, everything in between. Some movies that I haven't even seen or heard of, and look, this, in all honesty, is one of the movies which I haven't heard of, and it's coming in from the Belgian maestro, as I like to call him, Peter Pluimers. It's called COLEWELL, as you can see. It's a Karen Allen movie. It's been directed by Tom Quinn. And I was reading this review, and I really enjoyed the sound of it. And I like the fact that he sort of double matineed this with Uncut Gems, a movie which is utterly frenetic and absolutely balls to the wall crazy about a man just spiralling out of control. And speaking about that movie, I will be touching upon that in a couple of reviews' time, because we have another review of that from another writer on the blog. But look, this movie really intrigued me, man. I like the concept, and I'm not going to read the entire review, because that would be counterproductive. I'm trying to get people to go over to the blog and read the reviews, and if I was doing it for you, then there's no need for you to do it. But look, in summary, I always want to say surmising or something like that. I don't know why, but look, in summary, COLEWELL is endearing. serene and melancholic at the same time. A subdued drama about how it feels to grow older and then suddenly realise that your functional role has been played out. And two arrogant younger people say this without hesitation in your face. You'll be flexible or you'll pack it up and make room for the future generation. A realistic character study without frills, but not entirely. The moment Ella shows up at Nora's place, realism turns into vagueness. It's not clear whether this is Nora's free-spirited daughter or a figment of Nora's imagination representing the younger Nora. I love that. I love a bit of ambiguity at the end of movies. Do you like action-rich movies that are nerve-wracking, exciting? Well, I suggest skipping this one. The easygoing nature of the film may well get on your nerves. Look, the reason that I do find this movie such an intriguing prospect is purely because he's right, man. You've got such a rich variety of different movies. I don't know what's going on here. I was meant to have a trailer there. And everyone ticks a different box. Everyone can enter your soul and really touch you and change the way that you think about life in a different way. I've seen it with a whole array of movies that get under your skin and they make you think. And this is certainly sounding like the kind of movie, just from the review, that would do that. It would get under your skin and make you ponder the way you're treating individuals, the way you're treating older people in your life. Perhaps overlooking them, thinking they're past their sell-by date. That's not something I do personally, but I'm sure there's certain individuals out there who certainly do that. And yeah, just being selfish in a sense and overlooking their usefulness. I mean, people have always got a usefulness, depending on what age they are. They can bring anything, their wisdom. And it's something that's really happening in real life, and that's why it's such probably a satirical little story that will connect with a whole array of different people. This notion of jobs being given to younger and younger people and the older people being passed over, they're becoming unemployed, they're losing their will to live in a sense, and that is essentially what I'm getting from this movie. This woman has a purpose, she has a routine, she loses it and she spirals as a direct consequence. But look, man, I'm going to move on to the second review because I ain't seen the movie, so I can't really speak about it in much more depth than that. And as you can see, it's Guns Akimbo from 2019, also reviewed by Peter Plowmers, and as you can also see, it's one Daniel Radcliffe, who is the leading man in this movie. And what a poster that is, incidentally. That almost reminds me of Atomic Blonde in terms of its colourfulness and its zaniness. And by all accounts, this is a very zany movie. And look, I also share Peter's appreciation of Daniel Radcliffe's career post Harry Potter. He's absolutely right. This is a guy who could phone it in for the rest of his days. He's probably made for life off of that Harry Potter franchise. He could have demanded and forced himself into the Fantastic Beasts franchise as a sort of narratory sort of figure. But he didn't. He went down the sort of Pattinson route. I keep saying sort of, I'm aware of it. I'm trying to resolve that, incidentally. He could have, he did, I should say, go down the Pattinson route, and he chose more smaller, independent movies. He went on to Broadway. He really try to test himself as an actor and develop out from the pigeonhole of Harry Potter and Hogwarts and magic and mystery and all of that shenanigans and Voldemort. And he's done a great job of it in his career. I've seen a lot of this guy's movies. Horn, I think, was one. Swiss Army Man was one of my standout movies in the last few years. And getting way back to Women in Black too. So I completely agree with Peter that this is a guy who's testing the boundaries of his capabilities in terms of acting. And you see it in here. You can see it down there in that summary. If you can't stand the chaotic storyline and you get annoyed when it's a movie that's plain predictable and that looks more like an exaggerated comic, then I recommend you avoid this. Or you don't take a too critical attitude and simply undergo the film. That's what I tend to do. Perhaps you can then appreciate the vibrant pace, the screamy images, the creative camera techniques, and the complete insane undertone of this movie with a limited budget. Guns Akimbo is certainly not a film for everyone because of the video game-like mood and the raw sense of humour. He goes on to say, and for those who want to know what the film title actually means, Akimbo is a combat technique, if I can actually speak here, and I can't, for some god-awful reason. I am struggling to speak, and I'm also struggling to get this goddamn graphic up, man, for the trailer, and it always wants to go to the end. I have no idea why that is. Let's bring it back. And he finishes by saying, in which two weapons are used, with one in each hand. Well, I had to look it up myself. Well, I'm glad you did look it up, Peter, because I certainly didn't know that, and I've now got another piece of knowledge which can add to my memory. But look, man, I love the sound of this movie. I love the zaniness of it. I love the fact that Radcliffe is testing the boundaries once again. He's doing something totally different, polarly opposite to the Harry Potter franchise. And I think I'd watch this purely just to see those slippers, the giant tiger claw shaped slippers, and him being in boxers with a sort of dressing gown. It sounds like the type of movie that I'd love, and you just look at that trailer there, it's playing out in the background, and it looks amazing, man. It looks funny as hell, it looks wacky, and it's something that's right up my street, and I definitely will be giving that a bash, man, at some point. There's no doubt in my mind. I love Radcliffe, as I did say. But look, thanks again to Peter, and yes, thanks to Peter. I'm now going to watch it. Are you, if you're watching this? Was that something that intrigues you, that trailer, if not the review? Perhaps you can comment below and let me know what your thoughts are down there about that one, because that's certainly the standout in terms of zaniness. And I say that in mind with the Adam Sandler Uncut Gems, rounding up my sort of breakdown of the blog rundown for today. As you can see, most people will probably have heard of this movie. Now, this was the movie which almost propelled Adam Sandler to a Best Actor nomination at last year's awards. Academy Awards, that is. And of course he was overlooked, and a lot of people were deeply upset about it, and I wasn't, because it was always going to be Joaquin Phoenix's year, but he did get his recognition, I suppose, and though it wasn't at the Oscars. This was a man that took everyone by surprise, really, with that performance, and it's such a good movie too. This review's coming in from Dave, incidentally, and look, he goes through and sort of analyses the movie to the 10th degree, as you tend to do in movie reviews. But look, in summary, because this is what we do on this, I try not to read too much of it, because it would go on too long, and no one wants to hear me reading it. They should be doing it themselves, as I did say. Howard Ratner's descent into self-destruction is morbidly compelling, and Sadler knocks it out the park with a manic performance that for once suits his character perfectly. He really does. He's a manic guy, an uncomfortable guy to watch, I have to say. His life was deeply uncomfortable that played out in front of me, and that was all down to the performance of Adam Sandler. A truly stupendous performance from the man. But look, I digress. That aside, extremely well written, directed and performed. That's the Safdie brothers though, they know what they're doing. Uncut Gems is a character study that plays like a thriller. Through the grating, though the grating score is awful, I can't recall it. I'd have to go back and watch it to see if I agree. I think I was just caught up on this man's plight and the visual elements alone. But don't, similar to riding Golly, it's an exhausting, uncomfortable ride that doesn't let the viewer off until the end credits roll. And as good as it is, I got to say I was kind of relieved when it was finally over. That was exactly what I got from it too, Dave. It was a deeply uncomfortable ride. I felt for the guy. I just willed him to overcome his demons, but it was just one of those occasions where the guy's never going to learn from his mistakes. He's a deeply troubled individual, and it came back to bite him in the end. And it was a really unsettling end as well, just the way that he was taken out. I felt so sorry for him. And again, that's probably down to the magnificence of Adam Sandler's performance, because he was absolutely amazing. The Safdie brothers once again delivered a chaotic and brilliant story for the man to act out to. But look, that's going to round up this little rundown of today's blog rundown, funnily enough. If you want to go and, as I did say, go over to the website and read any of those reviews, you can do it by going to movieburnerentertainment.org/blog, and you'll get access to all of those reviews free of charge. Incidentally, we don't charge that. It'd be strange if we did. And yeah, I highly urge you to do it. These guys are really talented, man, and you'll see some of my written reviews on there as well from a bygone era, and they're not too bad either, guys. So that's perhaps another reason for you to jump over, so I can sort of blow my own trumpet. But look, I'm going to move on to the third topic on today's show, and it's all about that company that everyone is loving to hate upon just now. I'm of course talking about Netflix, and this is not remotely going to be touching upon the whole cuties controversy. Incidentally, I'm not touching it with a 10-foot barge pole, although I will say it's deeply disturbing, almost more disturbing than the Uncut Gems story. Why they thought it was a good idea to sort of sexualise young kids is truly beyond me. I don't know what they were thinking. It was a bad mistake, and I sincerely hope they come out and rectify it by issuing a statement or something like that. But that's going to round up my thoughts, brief thoughts on the cuties controversy. Instead, I'm going to get into this. It's all about Malcolm and Maya, I think it is, the movie's called. Malcolm and Marie, sorry. Clearly not even reading the headline. And it's been acquired by Netflix. Now, why is this so intriguing to me? Well, it's purely because of the story of this movie and its creation. This was, of course, the first movie and to sort of finish production and be created all in the midst of the COVID pandemic. It was John David Washington and Zendaya Coleman, I think her second name is. I actually didn't know that until today. I just referred to her as Zendaya. So apparently her name is, I think, Coleman. So that's another piece of information which I've learnt today. Intriguing, or perhaps not so. And yeah, I mean, this was crafted and shot and finished in the midst of the pandemic. And yeah, they really led the way in terms of protocols behind the scenes and stuff like that, which some of these big studios have now taken on board, and they're finding some success and others are finding not so much success because, of course, different movies have to be catered to differently in terms of the scale, what they're trying to do, big action set pieces. This one, though, simply about two people, almost like Marriage Story. That's the vibe I got. Two people deeply in love. Something happens in the middle of the movie and it really questions the relationship and how much they love each other. But look, the quote here: "So grateful to this cast and crew, many of whom are my Euphoria family, for coming together during such uncertain times." Can you hear my Labrador snoring? How very thoughtful of him, he's snoring. Thank you, Harley. We felt privileged to be able to make this film together, and we did so with a lot of love. We are all thrilled that it has ended up with Netflix, which is unparalleled in allowing filmmakers the freedom to tell their stories that reach audiences all over the world. And look, I've said that before. Controversy aside over cuties and all of that jazz, Netflix really is unparalleled for me in what it does for giving creative freedom to its directors, to its actors, and all of these sort of lexicon of people, the myriad of different individuals involved in the film making process. They are brilliant at allowing people who are established, people who are not yet established, to come in and create a movie in their own vision, and then they'll give it a platform to be viewed on the streaming service to ridiculous numbers of people if it's good enough. And if it's not good enough, then it still gets given the platform, but it just gets submerged under about 50,000 other titles. But this one feels like it's one that's going to be front and centre. They acquired this for $30 million, and they are not buying a movie up for $30 million if they don't have sort of confidence in this movie's ability to attract the viewership, ability to bring in more subscribers. I mean, you have John David Washington and you have Zendaya as the two title leads, then that is certainly a boon for the movie. It's certainly a boon for the streaming service. These are two big names. David Washington's trajectory right now in his career is like that. It's like COVID, early days of COVID. It's gone right up in an exponential curve. This man is so hot, it's ridiculous in terms of his career, of course, and he's such a great guy. He's charismatic as hell, and it's the same with Zendaya. She just releases hit after hit after hit. She's in the Spider-Man franchise. She was in The Greatest Showman. She's coming in to June very shortly, hopefully. And now she's in this little distinctly different movie, which was all shot during the pandemic, as I did say. And I cannot wait to see what they've given us, if I can speak. And I cannot wait to see if it is indeed like A Marriage Story, which blew me away. I loved that movie. Every element of it. I loved the score. I loved the performances of Scarlett Johansson and Adam Driver. Can this be a similar thing? A really introspective look at these two individuals' lives as it goes pear-shaped, and will the love sort of overwhelm the issues they have going on in a relationship? It certainly didn't in A Marriage Story, but you never know with this one. But look, guys, we're going to move on to the next topic, and probably the final topic again. I'm going to kick the Kevin Feige visiting the Suicide Squad set topic to the long grass. It's gone. I'm done. I'm going to round it up by speaking about another very intriguing movie which caught me off guard, I want to say about a month and a half ago. I'm of course talking about The Devil All the Time, which is an absolutely stacked movie. The cast is ridiculous. We have Sebastian Stan, we have Robert Pattinson, we have Tom Holland, Bill Skarsgård. I'm sure there's someone else in there who is ridiculously good. And yeah, this movie, it caught me by surprise, the trailer. I really loved it. I loved Tom Holland's southern accent, his deeply troubled character, and this unkempt sort of violence which was bubbling under the surface of this man's psyche. I don't know what I said there. It wasn't surface, it was something else. But look, Skarsgård's been out talking about it anyway, and I will bring the man's quote up. Incidentally, this guy just, what a head of hair he's got. I'm so jealous of that man. Not jealous of his squint though, but certainly the head of hair. And yeah, I think it's sort of running over multiple quotes here. They're not giving us one big sort of, I don't know, homogenous quote, which I like to read off of. It's much easier for me. But I digress. He's been saying this. It always stuck with me as well. The brutal violence, and that Arvin looks back at it as the best, fondest memories he has of his father. That for sure is complicated. He's teaching his son a lesson. It's also a lesson he teaches him violence, but also about picking your time and choosing your moment, which later on Arvin uses as well. Reflecting on the manic and dangerous side to Arvin's father, the It star explained, "I was lucky enough to shoot pretty much all of my scenes consecutively. It's a rare thing today. That was very helpful to finding where Willard is in any given moment and how he changes, what he goes through, and when does he become more desperate. And in becoming more desperate, more manic, and potentially more dangerous for Arvin." Now, I love this, man. I love this little insight into this movie, first and foremost, because it's Bill Skarsgård, and he's a great actor. And I love the fact that he got some enjoyment out of it. It really tested this man. Because this is a guy who just knocks the ball out the park again, time and time, with movies. And the fact that he get right into this character, this puts me in mind of Hacksaw Ridge, the Mel Gibson movie. And the relationship, I believe it was Hugo Weaving in that movie, and God, your man, what's he? Oh, Jesus Christ, I'm completely blanking on his name. The Amazing Spider-Man. Shocking, but it'll come to me. I'm sure it will. But that relationship between those two, the father-son relationship, deeply complicated. This was a troubled man who had went to war. He had hit the bottle. He had resorted to violence. And he wasn't coping well. He clearly had PTSD and stuff like that. And you've seen that really affecting his son. He became a conscientious observer, I think is the term, when he went to war and he didn't want to fire. He became a pacifist. It affected him in this way. This looks like it's a completely different setup. This looks like it's a similar vibe with the story, the relationship affecting the younger kid and into adulthood, but it's different in the sense that it's almost like a Shining as well, getting into Dr. Sleep. How this man's been troubled by his father. His fondest memories are also some of his darkest memories, laden with violence and all of that nonsense. So I love that aspect and how that lends itself to the performance of Tom Holland. I don't know how this is going to play out in the movie. I don't know if it's going to be flashbacks to when he was alive, if the Bill Skarsgård character Willard's going to be dead by the time the events of this movie take place, or whether it is just going to be him still alive in this complicated relationship between the two. But one thing's for sure, I'm sure it is going to absolutely impact upon Tom Holland's character, and it's going to impact on his performance. He's got his teeth into the meat and bones of this character, into the story. He spoke about it, his excitement about delving into the southern accent, and his excitement about portraying a character in this era of the United States between World War II and I believe Vietnam, round about the Korean War time, a troubled, topsy-turvy point in the history of the United States. So everything about this excites me, man. Skarsgård's words about his character, how it's going to impact on the performances of the other people in this movie, and just the setting of the movie in general, the vibes of the movie. It looks very authentic. I'm sweating like an absolute rapist here. I don't know what that's about. It's so warm in this room. And yeah, just everything about it, man. I can't wait to see Sebastian Stan playing the troubled copper, Patterson playing this Bible-thumping maniacal preacher. Looks amazing, man. I really enjoyed the trailer. Really looking forward to the, brought up Feige there, but it's not happening, to the array of performances in this movie. But look, guys, I am done. I'm going to round up the show by passing it over to yous who have perhaps managed to get through to the end of the show. If you have, then well done. You're a better man than me, because I've been just drivelling a lot of nonsense for a good bit now. But look, what was your thoughts on the Mandalorian trailer for Season 2? Did you enjoy it as much as me? What was your standout moment in it? What was your thoughts on the whole Madonna biopic thing? Do you think it's strange, like me, that she's writing and directing a story about her own life? Do you not think that's a little bit up her own arse? What was your thoughts on the blog rundown reviews that I battered through, the likes of COLEWELL, Guns Akimbo and UNCUT James? And finally, what do you make about Netflix buying over that Malcolm and Marie movie, with of course starring Zendaya and John David Washington, and just the devil all the time in general, and Bill Skarsgård's words about it? If you've got anything to say, you can comment below. Let me know what your thoughts are down below in the comments section. You can also like the video if you've enjoyed it, and you can subscribe to the channel if you want to see me discussing movie news throughout the rest of the week and into the future, hopefully. And if you do, guys, that's precisely what you will get. You'll get me discussing movie news for the rest of the week and into the future, doing movie reactions, and when Stephen comes back in the not so distant future, we'll be tackling an array of movie reviews as well. But until then, guys, I will bid you farewell by saying bye-bye.